What's up guys, and welcome back to Coach Sean's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to do a wrapped brisket. So I'm going to show you all the steps from how to trim up your brisket, how to season it, and then when to pull it, how to wrap it, and put it back on that smoker. You're not going to want to miss it. This is Coach Sean's Kitchen. As always guys, I have to start off this video by saying thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, there would be no Coach Sean's Kitchen. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and consider sharing this video or just telling a friend about it. It's the best thing you can do to help out Coach Sean's Kitchen. So after I did my last brisket episode, which I did the brisket unwrapped and cooked it for 18 hours, I had a lot of amazing conversations with people all around this country giving me tips and tricks on how to cook a really good wrapped brisket. So I thought I would combine a lot of their ideas, add my own little flair to it, and this is how I like to do a wrapped brisket. First off, I got a whole packer brisket that I picked up from Costco. If you're a fan of this channel, you know that my favorite place to buy high quality meat at a great price is Costco. Now I'm not doing a competition here, so I'm not looking to trim up my brisket and make it look absolutely perfect. I shoot for that middle ground. I don't want to go crazy trimming off all the fat, but I still want it to look good. So on the bottom of my brisket, I'm gonna leave that 1/4 inch of fat all across the bottom, and I like to cook it fat side down. I have the Traeger, the heat source is directly underneath my brisket, and this gives me a little bit of protection from overcooking. On the top side, I like to trim off all the fat off of the point muscle. The point is where you get that really juicy and fatty burnt ends or thick slices of brisket. I like to trim off all the fat from the point portion of the brisket. It has tons of intramuscle fat. It doesn't need any on the surface. So I like to trim it all off, and that allows me to get a good layer of seasoning directly on the meat of the brisket. So now that our brisket is trimmed up, I'm gonna show you how I went about seasoning it today. So the first thing I put down is a layer of my AP rub. Now this is still something I'm working on, but it's basically a combination of kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and garlic powder. And this is just a good base layer that I like to apply to all of my barbecued meats. Now the next flavor of seasoning I like to put on is a good classic barbecue rub. Today I'm using the same one that I used in my Memphis dry rib episode. It's got plenty of paprika and chili powder, which lends itself to giving that brisket a beautiful bark when it's finished cooking. Now the last thing I'm gonna put down is a really coarse rub like Montreal steak seasoning. This has big chunks of garlic and onion, and that addition really helps create a nice crunchy bark on the outside of the brisket. So now that I've got one side seasoned up, I'll let it sit on my counter for 5 minutes just to allow that seasoning to tack up, and then I'm gonna flip it on over and I'm gonna season the other side. And of course guys, do not forget about seasoning the edges of your brisket as well. So now that our brisket is good and seasoned, I'm gonna take it out to my Traeger smoker. Today, I've got the pit rolling at 250 degrees and it's full of some cherry rum pellets. I'm not really sure how they made it. I just saw the bag at Walmart and I knew I had to try it. It did not disappoint. I'm gonna go ahead and lay my brisket on the Traeger, and be mindful of how you lay it. Always remember that however you put your meat on the grill is exactly how it's gonna cook. So if you have it bunched up and running in weird directions, that's how it's gonna finish cooking. So now that my brisket is good, I'm gonna shut my Traeger and I'm not gonna look at it for 5 hours. Remember, the first few hours of the brisket is all about cooking by color. I want it to develop a good bark and a good color on the outside. Then we'll take it inside and wrap it, and we'll put some thermometers in it. So it's been 5 hours and my brisket was right at the perfect color, so I decided to pull it and bring it inside. I've got a few sheets of pink butcher paper laid down, and this is what I'm gonna use to wrap my brisket. And the reason for this is that pink butcher paper is porous and it allows moisture to escape while it sits on the Traeger. If you use something like aluminum foil, it's gonna trap that moisture and it's gonna lead to a very mushy bark on the outside of your brisket. So now that our brisket is good and wrapped, I'm gonna take it back outside, and I've cranked my brisket up to 300 degrees just to speed up that cooking process. I've also put a few temperature probes in there as well to give me a good idea of where the brisket's at. Now I've pulled briskets off anywhere from 190 all the way up to 215 degrees. What we're cooking by at this point is tenderness. So I want to be able to take my thermometer, insert it into the thickest portion of the flat, and it should go in and out like butter. Once it reaches that portion, you know you have a quality cooked brisket. So I ended up pulling mine at about 207 degrees. That's where I found it hit that perfect tenderness. I went ahead and brought it inside, and I'm gonna let it rest for 30 minutes. Now I opened up the wrap on the outside of my brisket to help some of that moisture and steam escape so that I didn't ruin my bark. Now that it's been 30 minutes, let's go ahead and slice into our brisket. As you can see, that wrap had no effect on our smoke ring. We have a beautiful circle running around the outside, and it's full of that cherry rum wood. It turned out so delicious. As far as slicing it, I like to flip my brisket over so that I'm not cutting directly into the bark, and I find that gives me a better presentation. Now that I have a few pieces sliced up, let's go ahead and check how well we did on the tenderness of our brisket. And as you guys know, we like to use the hang test. So taking one of those slices of brisket, if I dangle it over my finger, it should perfectly droop down both sides and not bow out to the side. And finally, we're gonna give it that tug test. Just a little pull, that brisket splits apart with little to no resistance. These are two great signs that we have just cooked a great brisket. As far as how it tasted, the seasoning was spot on. I loved the garlic, pepper, and salt that we started off with, and then that chili powder and that paprika gave it a great depth of flavor, and we can't be complaining about that beautiful color that we have on the outside as well. As far as what I like more, a wrapped brisket or an unwrapped one, the jury's still out. I have been a tried and true unwrapped brisket guy my whole life, but this pink butcher paper really does change the game and allow you to cook a brisket much faster, retain a lot more juice, and I did not have that much of a negative effect on the bark on the outside. Let me know in the comments which one you would be more excited to try, a wrapped brisket or an unwrapped brisket. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing or just telling a friend about Coach Sean's Kitchen. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and just remember, you can make anything homemade and healthy.